But I get there and I'm leaving for Antarctica. And this is apropos to be telling this story in England. I realized as I'm flying down there that there's actually another very prolific British explorer attempting the exact same goal at the exact same time as me to cross Antarctica solo. And when I say the same time, I don't mean like, oh, roughly around the same time, we might be out there like roughly at the same time as one another. I mean, there's one company that has one plane that can drop you off in Antarctica. There's only one season for which this can happen. So the nuts and bolts of that is me and this guy. His name is Captain Lou Rudd, a very exceptional guy. I actually hung out with him this morning, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
We're still friends. Are jammed together in this tiny little cargo plane flying to the edge of Antarctica, both of us not now only racing history to this historic thing that no one's been able to do. And a little bit of context, a couple years previously, a guy made it 900 miles and died just 100 miles from the finish line.
Wow.
The year after that, a guy attempted it, ran out of food and had to be evacuated. I mean, people have tried and failed, and paid the ultimate price in attempting this. So the stakes are really high. And now all of a sudden we're like, wait, I'm not just racing history, like I'm literally racing you. And I look over beside me and who is it? It's not like some, unintimidating guy. This guy's a 33-year military veteran in the UK. He's served in Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo, not to mention he's actually crossed more miles in Antarctica on large expeditions than any living explorer. I mean, this guy is a grizzled polar veteran and he's staring at me kind of like, what business do you have being down here, basically?
When did you find out he was doing it as well?
So I actually knew about him for several months ahead of time because he had announced his project ahead of time. I had been working on it that entire time, even when he announced it, and was surprised that he was also doing it, but knew about it. I didn't announce my project until a few days before I left, to kind of a strategic advantage. Okay. But initially it looked like we might be doing slightly different routes from one another, but we realized when we got down there and met is actually we were asking to be dropped off at the same point, the same time, the same day, the same everything. And so that was became real for both of us, kind of in that, basically that day. And what the agreed, is essentially 1,000 miles, just short of 1,000 miles to make this crossing. So it's from the Ron ice shelf via the South Pole to the other ice shelf, the Ross ice shelf. And the plane decides to make it fair that they're going to drop us off 1 mile equidistant from each other, equidistant to the first waypoint. So I've got this GPS markings on my, markings on my GPS that's this waypoints along the way. And the first waypoint we're equidistant. So literally, plane drops me off, chuck me out of the plane. I'm standing there at minus 25 degrees and the plane doesn't even take off. It just drives a mile and he gets out and it's, blank, empty white space. I can see him. He's just right there. He's a mile away. I could practically yell over to him. He's not far. We're equidistant starting 1,000-mile race across Antarctica, ready, go. And it's this crazy feeling. And I thought I had prepared really well. The first thing I do is I lean down to kind of check my sled to tighten the straps. And the big thing is the reason the sled is so heavy is because, maybe this is clear, but there's no resupplies of food or fuel. And so you need to take as much food as you possibly can to get across. And the guy the year previous had been evacuated because he actually ran out of food. And so it's this weird calculus. If you carried 1,000 pounds of food, you would never be able to pull your sled. Right. So you're trying to cut it, can I just enough, but that I can still pull my sled, but enough that I don't run out of food, and die or starve on the other side of the continent. So it's this weird, thing. And obviously Lou and I had strategized slightly differently from one another. It became clear that he had maybe a bit of a lighter sled and slightly different, maybe better strategy given his experience. So I leaned down to tighten the straps of my, bulging sled. And in 1 second, the clip breaks. Ping, clip breaks. I haven't even moved anywhere and stuff's already breaking on my sled because it's too cold and fragile for them. This is gonna be the longest journey ever. I'm okay, calm down. Same thing. I told you about meditation. I'm not a Buddha. I'm not
right.
Perfectly always crystal calm in my mind. I'm trying to take a deep breath. Okay, it's gonna be fine. Whatever. And so I strap into my sled. So I've got this harness that goes over my shoulders and then a rope attaching my sled, and I have to pull it. And inside.
And then skis?
Skis, yeah.
So cross-country skis.
Cross-country skis, but with skins on the bottom. So they're basically there so you don't fall into crevasses, so it disperses your weight across the snow, and also so you don't sink down in the snow. Okay. It's actually a slightly uphill all the way to the South Pole. So there's no glide. You're pulling a 307-pound sled. It's essentially like walking in glorified snowshoes. I mean, you're walking. You're slowly plodding along.
Okay.
But it gives you enough of a kind of surface area purchase on the snow
Okay.
And the skins themselves track to the bottom of the ice. So anyways, so I go along, and the first hour, like, I can't pull my sled barely. Like, I can barely move it. It's too heavy. And so what happens? I start crying. But what happens when you start crying and it's minus 25 degrees outside? The tears, they start freezing to your face. I mean, this is like an all-around, like all-time pathetic situation. Planned for a year. Oh, I'm gonna attempt this thing. I actually named my project, Jenna and I named the project The Impossible First, as an acknowledgement that this might be impossible, but actually in daring greatly to do really challenging things. If I fail, at least I'll learn something in the process. But I didn't expect to fail in the first hour. You know what I mean? Like, I figured I'd like make some progress.
And had you practiced with the sled in
I
simulated
had
conditions?
as much as I could. I went to Greenland and crossed it before, but not with quite as much weight. And I had filled the sled, but like the snow conditions, you can't exactly know. Like, it's not like you can like go simulate Antarctica like other places. And so like, it didn't have, everything, and there was actually a lot of loose snow, more so than typical in Antarctica, which created more friction on the bottom to begin, which was unexpected. And so it's like, it's not like I was ill prepared. It was just that like I got to this point where it was like, oh my God. And to make matters worse, like I'm struggling in the first hour, and I'm thinking like, misery loves company, right? You're thinking like, okay, well, this is ridiculously hard. If I look over, this other guy's probably like struggling too and fixing with his sled, whatever. No, what do I see? Captain Lou just like smooth and steady, just like like military march, like no problem, just like taking off, disappearing across the horizon. And I'm like, this is the worst, like my nightmare situation.
In retrospect, though, a great thing that he was there?
I think ultimately, the end of the story, of course, is that I've not only, I'll go finish this.
Tell it as you would.
I pull up my satellite phone because I can't think of anything else to do, and I call Jenna at home, who's running all the operations,
Is there a
logistics,
time zone
everything.
difference or not really?
Yeah, well, you can kind of pick your own random time zone, but I sit on Chilean time, and she's on West Coast time, like U.S., so she's 5 hours earlier than me.
Okay. On the South Pole, you're in everyone's time
Exactly.
zone.
It's the weirdest thing ever. You walk through every time zone in 1 second. So
Okay.
I pick up my phone. It's 24 hours of daylight the whole time, so it's just a disorienting place. Technically, you could just not be on a 24-hour day if you didn't want to, because it's just the same always. Okay. But I pick up my satellite phone and call him to Jenna, and she's like, "Why are you calling me? It's a 1 hour. Like, what's wrong?" Basically. And I was like, "Yeah, so I think we named our project the right thing. It appears that it's impossible. I can't pull my sled." She's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah, I can't do it, and Lou's long gone." And so basically, she convinces me to make it to the first waypoint, which is about a half a mile away. And she's like, "Just get there, we'll regroup. You'll feel like you made some progress. Forget about Lou." And I think one of the more crucial turning points, there's a lot of ups and downs to this whole journey. Obviously, we don't have enough time to talk through them all, but is the next morning, like I'm a big believer, I'm a really big believer in mantras, but I'm also a big believer in like, we are the stories that we tell ourselves. That to me, that's like something that's really rung true for me for a long time. And in this moment, like I'm piling on, right? Like I'm like doubt, fear, and I'm like, "Colin, you're so stupid. Like you told everyone that you're going to try to do this thing. And like, it's one thing to like go for 30 or 40 days and, fail, but like you've been out here for an hour, and like, the New York Times just wrote this big profile on, it's just like all the things, like you're just like, yeah, how could I be so stupid? How could I be so, you're just like really piling on. Then I like kind of stop, and I'm like, I could either continue to pile on. We're already every person, I don't care how successful you are, whatever, generally is kind of hard on themselves. I don't know if it's a human thing, but it's a shame that we are just really hard on ourselves sometimes. But I believe we're the story we tell ourselves. So I could sit there and be like, "You're a failure, you're an idiot, I'm alone, there's no one else to bounce ideas off of," all this kind of stuff. But I wake up the next morning, my alarm goes off, and I'm trying to go, clean slate, forget about Lou. And I sit up straight in my chair, or in my tent. And these words come to me. I never said them before myself my entire life, but I go, "Colin, you're strong, you're capable. You're strong, you're capable." And it's like, I almost don't even believe the words that I'm saying, but I'm saying them so loud that like, just to like override this doubt and this negativity. And it ended up being what I said to myself every single morning for the next 54 days, no matter what. My alarm went off, and before I did anything, all the crazy chores, all the hard things I had to do every single day, "Colin, you're strong, you're capable. You're strong, you're capable." And just starting the day, setting the tone for positive action and positive sort of outcomes made a huge difference for me would like to say that I got out of the tent and it was so easy and I just pulled my sled for smoothly, and that's not at all what happened. The next 54 days were stupidly hard. I almost died several times and all sorts of crazy things happened, but ultimately I did complete the crossing. I passed Lou on the 6th day and stayed ahead of him the rest of the time, and ended up being the first person to ever in history complete this crossing.